I pressed against Helen's window pane, felt the morning sun, warm like Mother's touch. How it prickled my skin. How it made me think of her, all these years without. She would come into my bedroom and raise the curtain. I wanted her to stay, wanted to be her just so I could have her forever. But baby Alice would cry from another room, and Mother would leave me, alone. Then years later, baby Lizzie would cry, and I began to understand that there was no such thing as forever. The morning sun. A bird flew by the window, and I put mother thoughts away. Everything in Helen's house was quiet. Not a clock, not a foot on floorboards, not a raised voice, not a slammed door, not a father, not Abby, not a sister. My cheeks rounded to the size of a hot air balloon. I had not had a sister for 2 weeks, had not had to think about someone else's needs, feelings, heart. In this house, my mind had been all for myself. I pressed harder into the window pane, thought about how, after I finished here in Fairhaven, I would run away, travel distances of foreign bluestone streets, sketch them in my workbook, color my fingers with pastel wax crayon. Afterwards, I would cleanse my hands in deep seas, and on the off chance that I might think of my family, send a postcard that would simply read, "Adventure continues." I would make a point to send a postcard from the places Lizzie had never reached on her own European tour, remind Father that I had sacrificed a lot to keep Lizzie well behaved and that I was deserving. And when I did eventually return to American soil, I would move away from 2nd Street and live hermitically, quietly. Live like Maria a Beckett, paint my own northern lights. There would be no more Lizzie, no more Father, no more Abby. Finally, at 42, there would be no more pretending. The sun shifted and my shoulders widened, my body growing. Downstairs in the kitchen, Helen thumped a cast-iron kettle on the stove, made me jump. Helen called out, "Emma, tea?" She almost sang it. I smiled. "Yes, always yes." The difference between houses. Before I traveled those 16 giant miles to Helen's house in Fairhaven, Lizzie had begged me to stay at 2nd Street, not to leave her. No, I had said. Everything I dreamed of was wrapped in that small word. I was going to be taking a private art class, my clandestine rebellion against Father. She had looked at me, glass eyes. "You're making a terrible mistake going away." Lizzie, a locomotive, tried to push me into guilt. I raised my hand, had thought of slapping her, but instead I left my sister in her room calling out. I ignored her, let her cry. 2 days after I arrived in Fairhaven, Lizzie began sending letters. "Well, I'm not having a good time of it, I'll tell you that much, Emma. You wouldn't believe the things I've had to listen to at the dining table. Father is an absolute bore. Have you ever noticed how his lips tighten when he says, 'today'?" I had not. At first, Lizzie's letters amused me. I read them out loud to Helen over dinner, and we roared laughter. Then Lizzie started writing about Abby. I overheard Mrs. Borden telling her ridiculous sister about how secure she felt now that she was going to own all of Father's properties when he dies, and that he wasn't going to leave us anything. Emma, what a scampy liar. Imagine the nerve. What are we going to do about it? I could hear their voices in my head, old headache, heard them yelling across the parlor to each other, across the kitchen, the front stairs, through the walls of bedrooms. 16 miles away, and I was still at home. I folded Lizzie into small pieces. But the letters did not stop. "I'm having those strange dreams again, Emma. I thought they had really happened. You must come home." Going home.